With Jimmy only reluctantly agreeing to help, the work began. First, to auto shop to see the instructor, Mr. McCutcheon, and ask if he'd head up the faculty end. He said he would if Mr. Potter agreed. Mr. Potter? He was the principal who was threatening to lock up all the kids' cars. Well, seeing we needed some assistance, we called Mr. Burton, who had returned to his San Francisco office, and he agreed to talk to our principal. After all the trouble Mr. Potter had had because of the few kids like Tay, who make a racetrack of the streets, it's no wonder he didn't take to the request at first. But after Mr. Burton gave him a few facts and figures, he said okay, and gave us permission for Mr. Burton, highway patrol officers, and me to address an assembly. Get me, a big shot, a public speaker yet. Next day, to get sign-ups, I guess Jimmy and I answered almost every kind of question. Like, a run is usually over a course of about 100 miles, which we'll lay out with the 3 A's and the highway patrol. That any student with a valid driver's license may enter, driving any standard type of car. And that to make it a test of good driving habits, observers go along and give penalties of 1/10 of a gallon for each infraction of a traffic law, if any. Jimmy and I did fine. 24 kids signed up the first day, and we were real proud as we went to the malt shop to meet Mr. Burton. He thought we'd done a bang-up job. In fact, he teased us. Maybe he'd give us a job. Selling gas and oil, door to door. Big joke. But then, when he heard we hadn't gotten any other schools in, he warned us that in a city this size, with only one school entered, the run could be a flop. Having seen our sad sack faces, next day Mr. Burton was waiting for us in front of school. He had news for us. The company had agreed to award another trophy to help get other schools in. A sweepstakes trophy to be awarded to the school getting the best team score. Were we ever thrilled? With the old school spirit working for us, it would be a cinch. Next day, we told Mr. McCutcheon our good news, but found he'd already gotten 4 other schools to enter. And then he told us we were the ones who'd have to make talks to the service clubs to ask if they would provide the observers we'd need and the victory luncheon. Jimmy threw in the sponge, and I threw the book at James. If Mr. McCutcheon hadn't calmed us down, Jimmy and I still wouldn't be talking. But then we got more help from Mr. Burton. He went to the 3 A's, saw Mr. Moore, and they agreed they'd both help us get speaking dates, which they did. We both went over like a house afire, until I called on the chairman of another club to ask if I could address his next meeting. And, well, that's just about it, Mr. Scott. So, if you'll put me on as a speaker at your next luncheon meeting, I promise I'll tell all about the run in 3 minutes flat.
No, I'm sorry, Miss King. Our club isn't interested in races or competitions of any kind where youngsters your age risk their necks in cars.
But it's not a race, it's...
You did say that the cars had to be back in a specified time, didn't you?
Well, naturally. Otherwise you could call it
Exactly. Young lady, you're just wasting your time. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about using my influence to see that your entire project is canceled.